Okay, welcome back, folks. Hopefully you're all fed and watered and rested and relaxed and ready to go again. We're hopefully back on schedule, and we're going to see if we can stay there. That's the challenge for the afternoon. So I won't waffle on. Please welcome our first speaker of the afternoon. He works for Realm. His name is Marin, and he's going to tell us how to become a better developer in non-technical ways.
I envy you sitting there having no idea what this talk is all about. And I gotta tell you that non-tech talks are hard to prepare. I could have easily spoken to you today about code, with at least a mild success, but I chose to deliver my first non-technical talk. Because it's hard, and because I think that I have something of importance to share with you. So, in my late 20s, I had this tight spot I was in. So, I was having a job. That wasn't really the problem. In fact, I was pretty good at my job. I had more experience than anyone on my team, and I could as easily work on the front end and in the back end. And I would turn in a pretty great code. And yet, I felt a little bit unfulfilled and sometimes underappreciated. I felt like I lacked something that would make my work outstanding, not just great. And sometimes others would notice that too. For example, at my job at the time, I had a new manager, and so when he came in on board, I wanted to have a one-on-one with him to just talk over my CV, see what I've done before, what skills I have, so we can see together how I can contribute best to the team. To which he said, Marin, I can't promise you that. So even having this short talk about how best we can work together was a little bit too much. Actually, the company didn't really even care what I can do because they actually just wanted me on staff. Which made me realize later on that I wasn't special to this company, and that made me feel anonymous, like a blank face that just fitted the job description. An asset. Which was completely different than how I perceived myself. So I was writing great code, right? I was designing databases, optimizing, indexing, coding solutions that were really difficult to pull off. And yet, for every programming need that you had, I did really look like a Superman. So for every technical need that you had. However, if you had looked at me at any different angle, I was simply one-dimensional, like a paper cutout of a Superman, rather. And so I felt like I lacked some substance in there, some dimension. And I felt like that showed in my work as well. But let's rewind 10, 15 years to my childhood. And what a promising boy I was. So my father wanted to be a painter, but became a building engineer instead. And I embraced his dream. So at 5, I would paint a lot. And at 12, I would publish my own comic books. And in high school, naturally, I ended up in a fine arts class. But not only. I was also a soloist on a school choir, and I was acting on a local TV series for teens, and I was training with the volleyball team 2 times a week, 5 times a week in vacation. And I got published right after I exited high school for the first time. So at this time of my life, I really felt like an unstoppable, multidimensional being from outer space. And thinking about these times, I'm remembered of the words of Ash Furrow, every person has all of these things inside of them that form their entire life. An unimaginable plethora of things that build up every single person. the dumb ones and the smart ones, and the thin ones and the chubby ones. Everyone, a universe inside each and every person. And so, how the hell did I end up 10 years later feeling like a paper cutout, a one-dimensional Superman? Well, imagine, if you will, if you were a bartender. You might know all the recipes for cocktails. You might know all the cocktails by name and ingredients. But then at 1 in the morning, somebody will walk in the bar and they will ask for a drink. They will not ask for a specific cocktail with an extra whatever on top. They have some kind of situation and they just want to have a drink. And if you want to be an outstanding bartender, you will know what to do at precisely this point in time. So, in a way, at the time, I felt like I lacked this extra thing there. And if I felt this way about myself, could I blame others who felt that way about myself? Like my teammates, or my manager, or my family? Well, some of you will say, you grew up, Marin, that's what happened. Life happened to you. No, I hate when people say that. I hate when people talk in this defeatist way about life, like it's a futile sentence that is bound to happen to you at one point. And I want to slap those people. Because we are responsible for who we turn out to be in the end. And so this talk is about the small changes that I implemented in my daily routine, such that until a point that I struck a balance that I feel really good about, and I feel like this reflects in my work as well. Actually feeling good about myself and then striking a balance in between everything I do helped me produce this much then greater code and work in general. Now, just as with any creative work, you leave a piece of yourself in your code. Your code is a reflection of whether you're calm or stressed, whether it's been a good day for you or it's been a bad year. And if you were able to sit down and focus on your solution or run around the office like a headless hen. So let's start this part of the talk with a quote from Jason Fried from Basecamp. He said, "Group chat is like being in an all-day meeting with random participants and no agenda." I totally agree with that. But I will extend this also to social networks. Twitter, an all-day meeting with no agenda, but they let trolls in. And so the point is that there are so many ways your code is affected by your current well-being. And sometimes you're just trained at work, supposed to respond to real-time Slack messages, support requests, drowned in a company-wide communication about things that you actually don't work on, and so forth. And we often are unhappy for non-work related reasons, right? So the same way you bring work for home, sometimes you bring home at work. Or maybe some of us are just not really productive in office hours, in work days. And I think the last one affects most of our work. Traditional companies appreciate more a third that you turn in office hours, in work days, better than a gem that you deliver at your own convenience in your most productive time. How about that? So when we are talking about our TV sitcoms, we are, oh, no. I watch my TV series at my own convenience because I got Netflix. Maybe I don't feel like watching comedies right now, or so. But when it comes to creative work like programming, we have to do it in a certain days, in a certain hours, with certain people, in a certain place. And that's just ludicrous. But beyond all these problems, there's luckily so many ways to improve your current well-being, and that will also reflect in your work. And the easiest way, the easiest thing to try is meditation. Surprisingly, you don't have to be Julia Roberts in a Bali resort to meditate. Actually, meditation is about training the mind and developing a skill of consciousness. And for these, you only need a mind and a relatively quiet place to sit in. And so, it might be a little bit detached from what we normally do, but actually there's an app to introduce you to that, and it's pretty good. And I've been using it for a while now, and I'm really happy. It takes 10 to 15 minutes a day, and that doesn't really seem like a very long time slot, does it? And so the question is, how does that help me at all? Well, how many times did you want to, for example, write an email, and in half an hour you realize that you're looking at kitten pictures for about half an hour, and the email is still not sent? So our minds are overloaded with everything that comes from the internet and all of our electronic devices and so forth. And actually, meditation helps you to develop the skill to control when your mind starts to wander. It really helps not being sidetracked so easily. Cooking can be a form of active meditation too, but with benefits. Cooking is a healthy break in your workday, and you literally get to eat the fruits of your labor. And it pulls you away from the monitor and the keyboard. You get to do something with your hands and actually produce something. There's instant gratification when it's done. And just being able to, step back and think about the things that you normally just try out gives you a much better understanding of what's going on. For example, you were coding, nothing works. Go to cook, just chop here a couple of things, fry something like this, then wash things and put them in a pan. And I never initialized my data model. That's the problem. It really helps your work too. In just a couple of years, I didn't really know how to hold a knife or how much a pinch of salt was, but there was a really good book called The 4-Hour Chef, that helped me know these very basic things and really get me on speed with cooking. And this is something that I just made maybe a couple of weeks into the book. So that was pretty nice. And now that your mind and body are relaxed, and it's time to get focused and active, it is proven that even the slightest physical activity stimulates the brain. But not only. When I go for a run and come back at my desk, I'm so much more refreshed, happier, and actually motivated. So it is a fantastic way to just restart your desire to turn in great code in the middle of the day, for example. Actually, I started running in my lunch breaks. It was really so easy. I was like, okay, maybe I can just stroll to the gym for 10 minutes and see what's going to happen there. And until I knew it, I couldn't stop doing it anymore. It is really fantastic. And it doesn't really require so much time. If you have 1 hour at noon, that's the perfect time slot for just half an hour run, shower, 5 minutes sauna, and then back to the office. And everybody's like, oh, we had this great lunch. And you're like, yeah, yes, give me more code, do more stuff. It is true. But, those healthy activities don't have to be boring. They might be also fun. So don't forget to let go from time to time. For example, a few days ago, I met Agnes Vasarhead, who organizes NS Budapest, and she, for example, brews her own beer. And I can bet that this reflects in her work too. How much happier would you be if you were brewing your own beer? And guess what? I'm sure you already guessed it, but there is an open source, functional reactive iOS app on GitHub that you can download, compile, and use to help you brew your own beer. That being said, brew and drink responsibly, please. Now, this talk has some action points inside. The meditation app has a free trial. You can see if you like it. The gym app that I use works for different cities, plenty of gyms. The Cooking for Amateurs, forourchef.com, points to the book, and the Brew app, brewfactory.org, which will take you so you can fork it on GitHub and send a PR, whatever you feel like. And so I can't force you to do any of this that I'm talking about. Nobody can force you. You have to want it. And the biggest excuse not to do any of this is lack of time. Fair enough. So let's look at time. I recently read a great post from Ayaka Nonaka on her blog in which she kept going to bed at night at the same time, but she started waking up 15 minutes earlier. Just moved the alarm clock 15 minutes earlier. And like lacking 15 minutes of sleep, 15, is not really too much. You don't really feel it at all, I would say. But there you have this new time slot in your day which you can use to experiment with new things that you didn't really do previously. And so this is how she started meditating and blogging. That was enough, just 15 minutes of new time for you. And exactly this is how I actually started with iOS development. Back in 2009, I was having a day job, so I would get up every day at 8 and go to my day job. And then at one point, I decided to learn Objective-C. And so I moved my alarm clock 1 hour earlier and still kept going to bed at the same time. So I had 1 extra hour per day in which I would get up, shower, and start learning Objective-C until such time that I was working on iPhone full time and I never had to wake up again on an alarm clock. And here's a nasty secret. I used to smoke a lot. I smoked for 16 years, partially to have an excuse every hour to have a break. And who could have blamed me with some of the jobs that I held? But I stopped. It was really easy. It is amazingly easy to stop smoking from one day to the other. I read a book, and I was like, no more. And I reclaimed hours every single day. So if any of you still do that, you can claim hours of free time really easily by just stop smoking. I can't describe what a huge relief is to quit. And so, action points. For extra 15 minutes, Ayaka's blog, and the Easy Way to Stop Smoking book on Amazon. It is an amazing book that would help you without any problem to stop smoking, apparently. And so, some of these URLs are not full is because at the very last slide, there's a QR code, which you can follow up, download the slides yourselves, and all the links are clickable. So if you want to follow up on any of this, just wait for the QR code in the end. When you're born, you depend entirely on others, your family. Later, you interact with your schoolmates and work colleagues. You create your own family. And believe it or not, how you interact with those people reflects on your work too. So I want to start this part of the talk with this quote from Psalm 451. Our lives are not our own. From womb to tomb, we're bound to others. And yet, we try to isolate ourselves at every given chance. Do you recognize this being the best desk in the office, with the screen towards the corner of the room so nobody can see what you're doing? Coincidentally, here's where the worst code is born. In isolation, because the person in the corner thinks their code is pretty great, but they have no way to know if that's true or not, because they cannot have feedback from anyone because nobody sees into their screen. This is where these unimaginable instructions are born, out of pride and self-containment. / add tests. And sometimes we work, we chase the zone, and we tend to forget there's a whole world out there. We tend to be busy, suspicious, narrow-minded, and interacting with others could make us so much better. I want to have another quote from Jason Zimdar's Basecamp 2. It's from a blog post in which he wrote about productivity. And he said, "My daughter comes home starving, takes 10 minutes to make her a snack, and that makes both of our days. She could totally do it herself, and I can totally keep working, but which 10 minutes is she going to remember? It makes both our days. This is what you're going for. In days like this is where the best code is written." And from the same blog post, the people you love aren't interruptions. They're the reason you work at all. Give them a hug. But beyond your family, let's have a look at the people that you spend most of your day with, your colleagues. The only way to work with your colleagues is to understand them. And so, why do they do the things they do? If you don't understand them and if you don't talk to them, you will never know. Why did they do that? They're crazy. No. The only way is to be more open with them. So if you're an iPhone dev, go to the Android dev on your team and ask them to show you their code. Teach you some Kotlin. Maybe they do things better on Android. Maybe Android Studio is better than Xcode. Or maybe not. But then you will know for a fact. And maybe you can teach them something, or maybe they can teach you something. In any way, exchange of ideas, just empathy and opening to your coworkers would make all the difference. Is one of your colleagues a foreigner? If you just learn few words from their language, that will get you a very long way. Not to mention that learning human languages develops the same skills as learning computer languages. So you will also benefit from that. And let's take this on a grander scale. A few years ago, I thought I was really good about Objective-C, the king. And so it wasn't before I pushed my library JSON model to GitHub that I knew for a fact where I stood. My code wasn't all that great at first. Then simply because of putting my work out there, I got so much feedback and people help, teach me, ask the relevant questions that I never asked myself. And now JSON model is in the top 50 Objective-C libraries on GitHub. And more than 16,000 apps use JSON model. Now, this is exactly the opposite of staying in the corner of the room, right? In the open is where the best code gets written. And if you're not convinced about open source and how helpful it could be for you and your organization, come tomorrow to Orda's talk at the same time slot, and he will tell you everything about it. Now, some of you will say, well, family, learning languages, all of this takes a lot of time. That is true, but we already see how to create time. We just saw how to create 15 minutes a day. We saw how to create 1 hour, and for some use cases, more time. So let me show you on stage how to create 10 evenings out of thin air. And so let's imagine the situation. A customer calls, and they want to contract me for a project. And so we have a meeting, and the customer is basically pleading their case. All right, so we have this application, which is like a social network. We're going to be sharing images, sharing videos. There's a neural algorithm that connects people and posts content in between them, allows them access to different things. The only problem is our main programmer just quit and we have to release in 2 weeks, but we trust you that you're going to be the best person for that job, and we're going to be flexible about it and pay you a lot of money in equity. What do you think? No. Here, I just created 2 weeks for myself. And so, not only I will not have to deal with this toxic person in my life, because let's be honest, this project is never going to be finished. If their programmer quit 2 weeks before launch, this project is going down. But more importantly, instead of delivering a half-assed job, both on my day job and this project, maybe having a little extra money in the meanwhile, I will be able to focus on my day job or on my main project and deliver awesome work there while having the evenings for myself. And this is something that is a little bit more important. Now, few action points for an extra boost of love. Call your mom anytime, or your dad, and tell them you love them. This will make both your days better. And I'm not joking. It is almost sad that I have to mention this and I have to underline that. After the session, just pick up the phone, say, "Hi, I'm in Zurich. Love you. We'll see you next time." And how about improving the interaction with your family? My girlfriend's family has a superb tradition, which is no electronics on the table. And that's it. So when they sit down for dinner, they actually eat and talk. Then everybody runs to their devices, but then they had this good time in which they could actually interact. And there's no exceptions. That's how it is. Go and learn a language. I mean, okay, in Zurich that might be not so relevant. Here everyone speaks at least 5, but any foreigners here? Any monolinguistic visitors? And if it's all the same for you, this is a website that I'm using to learn Spanish. They have really fantastic user experience. I can only recommend it. If it's all the same for you, you can just do the free trial just for the kicks of it. And one thing that it's the single thing in my life that really taught me about empathy in the workplace is actually having a proper Scrum Master training. That really turned everything around for me, how I perceive the workplace. I know the Scrum Master title is a little bit polluted from all the companies that are doing Scrum, but however, a good training will go a long way. Now, if you think this is getting out of hands, and you can improve on yourself and your interaction with others, but the world is just too big to change alone, let me ask you this. Do you honestly believe you were only born to just pay bills and die? No, I didn't think so. And let's start this part of the talk with this recap of an amazing talk that I saw on TED. It's about this urban artist called Cindy Chang from New Orleans. She was seeing a lot of abandoned houses in New Orleans, and one of her projects was to put a black chalkboard on one of the facades on the street that a lot of cars pass by. And on this chalkboard, there was printed these placeholders here that just said, "Before I die, I want to blank." No instructions. She just left some colored chalk next to the board. And then within a day, the board was full of what people actually wrote on it. So a lot of people would write, "Before I die, I want to meet LeBron James. Before I die, I want to be made fun of on Saturday Night Live." Other people will write, "Before I die, I want to build a bridge." Before I die, I want to raise a serious man. And so I think this is a fantastic exercise in dreaming. Because when you just have the blank space in there, you don't think about what current job you hold, or what is your current level of education, or what is your current fitness state, kind of. You only think what could be achieved in a lifetime. And this is a fantastic exercise to ask yourselves later on, what could you do if you had a lifetime of a project? And so, if I think about it, I would maybe say, I'm a software developer. I like software. Maybe before I die, I want to create a software that everyone used and improved their lives in some way. So not just some, not just for a while, but everyone would have their lives improved. And once you let go of current job, current health, current education, and so forth, you can think of things that you actually will realize that you can start acting tomorrow on. And some of these things will be deliverable in a year or a month. But there will be a big grander dreams than what you will do, say, at coffee morning. Like, what will I do today? Well, I'll go to the pharmacy. And so, dreaming big. Well, so what, will say a toxic person. Listen, toxic person, I'm sick of you, okay? You said I was too eccentric to achieve anything in life. You said I was a fool to do mobile apps because nobody wants to use devices with no keyboard. You said, when I painted, that you could have done it too. But hey, guess what, toxic person? I want to tell you something. You only criticize. You never do anything. And I did. And I feel like I have a shot at anything, because if anyone is improving the world, it's the software creators. So the not-so-distant past was about engineers. A better horse, put a man on the moon. And the not-so-distant future is going to be all about botanists on Mars growing potatoes. But right now, it's about creating better and most useful software. This is how we are changing the world now. Just imagine 50 years ago, a visually impaired person would only be able to read a text that was specifically printed for them in Braille. What a restrained point of view would that person have? And right now they can read anything, any digital text, literature, the news, tweets, everything. A whole universe of all the things that was given to this person by software. This is a way to change the world. This changed the world for everyone that was visually impaired. And so if at any point you feel it's too hard to be kind to your teammate, to meditate before going to work, to cook your significant one a dinner, to run another 5 kilometers or open source your project, remember that being a better developer, being an unstoppable multidimensional being from outer space is worth it for a shot at improving the world. Now, as you saw, there are many ways to be a better developer. If you yourself are healthy, relaxed, and focused, so is your code. And by truly collaborating with others, you can really make your collective work be more than the sum of its parts. It is not all about the code. It is also about life balance and dreaming big. My name is Marin. I work for Realm, a mobile database that millions of people rely on. I like to speak and contribute to open source and help people as much as I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marin. Maybe time for one question. A hand went up over here very quickly.
There's the QR code for everyone that wants to follow up on any of this.
Hey, Marin, very, very inspiring talk. Thank you. What can you advise for the indie developers? So Act 2 was mostly for people working in office, right? And they tend to isolate themselves, but the indie developers who are being themselves, so I can imagine like collabs and stuff like that, but what else can you
Yeah, I
advise?
see your point. I was indie for a really long time, and what helped me a lot was actually keeping online with my colleagues. There's so many communities, the open source community. If any project you find useful in your work, you can join the community around it. There's going to be probably a GitHub repo with issues. There's going to be some kind of online talk, controlled, not all day long, not without an agenda. Still, talking with others, even online, would go a long way for you. Scotty.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Just to say thank you once more.